Kirin is one of the first Elder Dragons introduced in the Monster Hunter series, being among 3 in the very first game. He heavily resembles a unicorn, being a horse with a single horn. He glows blue, with a white mane and red eyes. When you think of the word dragon, I'm sure Kirin is not what you immediately have in mind, but in the Monster Hunter series, there are all sorts of different monsters that are classified as dragons. The general criteria is that a monster should tick at least a few of these boxes. Have 2 wings, 4 legs and a tail. Be really big. Be really old. Have some sort of crazy power that's often unexplained. Not be affected by traps. Fought alone in the older games, with no other large monsters and few if any small monsters present on the map. And drop materials associated with Elder Dragons, such as blood or gems upon death. Some non-elders fit much of this criteria, such as Akantor and Yukanlos, who are both big, presumably old, and non-capturable. But they are classified as flying wyverns instead, due to their body structure and the fact their elemental powers aren't necessarily super impressive or unexplainable. Kirin fits these criteria in particular, and so is classified as an Elder Dragon. He tends to live in cold regions, as well as wet and humid areas like swamps and jungles. He doesn't usually hang out in hot areas like volcanoes, except for this one quest in Freedom Unite that has you fight him in the Crimson Fatalis arena for some reason. Kirin has 2 kinds of attacks: physical, where he will often attempt to charge at you, either by running or performing a short dash, or elemental, where he strikes lightning down either surrounding him, slightly in front of him, or at a long distance. The last one he will only do when enraged, which also has him glow brightly and move faster. In general, his moveset isn't very complex, but he can be tricky. The lightning strikes incredibly fast, giving you little time to get away if you're caught in the thick of it. He likes to prance around like a Kelby, covering great distances, which force you to either constantly give chase or wait for him to come back to you. Not only that, but his backside causes a lot of weapons to bounce, making the head the best place to attack. It is also the most dangerous part of him, considering he can send lightning right in front of him and use his horns for attacks. Despite his small size and stature, Kirin can be a difficult fight, and definitely lives up to his classification. Like most Elder Dragons, Kirin skipped the 3rd generation games, but later reappeared in Monster Hunter 4. In this game, Kirin was mostly exclusive to the Everwood and Expeditions, which made encountering him a bit tricky. His introduction cutscene shows him teleporting around, which is not something he does during combat. He has a brand new physical attack, where he kicks his legs back, smacking you away. In terms of lightning attacks, he can still have them strike in a field around him, but now he can send them forwards in a row too. When neutral, Kirin's backside is soft and you can freely strike it, but when enraged, he enters a special armor mode where it will resist all attacks, meaning you have to strike his head until he returns to normal. He can leave a trail of thunder behind him as he charges, and some lightning bolts will paralyze you. Not just this, but his Kelby prance can often leave lightning bolts behind. He can also release a large electric field in front of him. Kirin is one of the very few elders to get an alternate version. Meet the Oroshi Kirin, an icy subspecies with one of the coolest colour schemes I've ever seen. Oroshi has all of the same physical attacks, but his elemental ones cause icy shards to emerge from the ground. Getting hit by these will knock you away, and they act as hazards by dealing damage if you touch them. Rather than launching a field of thunder like Kirin, Oroshi creates a long row of ice. G-rank Kirin can thrust his horn to the side and chain the attack multiple times. G-rank Oroshi Kirin also has the horn thrusts, but he can also launch his ice row twice in quick succession, as well as create a field of mist that encases you in ice while forming shards. Kirin appeared in Generations. The biggest change is that he no longer uses the tower music as his battle theme, instead using the theme of whatever area he's in. Not just this, he has always fought on his own in this game. In previous entries, despite being an Elder Dragon, you could still encounter other monsters in the same hunts as Kirin, which was always pretty strange. He later returned for Monster Hunter World. Kirin received a slight redesign, being larger, with much more hair on his mane, which is coloured differently. He doesn't have the sideways horn thrust from 4 Ultimate, but he can do a slight uppercut. He still has the same lightning powers from the old games, but can now send out a huge bolt in front of him. During the fight, he can charge up, causing his hair to spike up, and boosting his thunder attacks. This lets him send out lightning bolts faster, with his damage being increased. He can also create longer bolts in rows on the ground that light up before striking. When you knock Kirin over, he flails on the ground, which is different from the older games where he would lie there as if he was dead. Arch-tempered Kirin was added later to World. This one is shinier, deals more damage, and his bolts can cause paralysis. He can also send out multiple rows of lightning. Iceborne Kirin retains that attack, although he doesn't paralyze nearly as much. He has the full ultimate horn thrust attack back, and when he creates the longer bolts, he can crisscross them to cover a wider area. Kirin has had an interesting journey in terms of battle themes. In his introduction in the very first game, he would simply use the theme of whatever area he was in. Monster Hunter DOS gave him something more unique. This is Kirin's theme, but it's also that of the tower, which was introduced in that game. Kirin shares it, so it will play for him wherever he's fought, but also for any battle in the tower. Monster Hunter Frontier didn't use many of the battle themes from DOS, replacing them completely, and those themes were used in Freedom Unite. Therefore, Kirin and the tower's theme became something that might be a little more familiar. This continued in the 3rd generation and Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate too, where both battles against Kirin and in the tower have this playing in the background. But what's interesting is that Kirin's introduction cutscene in 4 seems to have elements of the DOS theme playing instead. I mentioned this earlier, but Generations removed the theme from Kirin, replacing it with nothing. Like in the first game, he just uses the area theme. The track is still used for tower battles, and this continued for World, where the Coral Highlands theme plays during battles against him, and Sunbreak, where the tower returned with a new remade theme. I'm fairly certain people will associate Kirin primarily with 3 different themes: the original tower, the second tower, and just nothing specific. Judging by the 4 Ultimate cutscene, Capcom themselves might have been in the first camp, despite clearly being in the second, before changing their minds in the next game and being in the third. In any case, I'm in the second camp, and I do miss how it was associated with him. Kirin is a rare Elder Dragon, and there's kind of a mysterious air about him, a bit like the tower. The theme worked well for both of them, and I don't understand why Generations changed it. At least give him something new. Surely one of the oldest Elder Dragons deserves it, right? I'm curious to see how others feel about this. Kirin is an Elder Dragon who demands that you fight him in a very specific way, and because of that, I hated him in the past. Why is he so fast? Why do I bounce off him so much? Stop moving! But once I realised that the key is to keep yourself moving, to let him approach you and be precise with your attacks, I'm gonna be real, I still wasn't a fan. Never really found him fun. With this series of videos, I've come to really understand a lot of the monsters I didn't initially like or felt neutral upon. But it didn't happen with Kirin. That being said, I can still appreciate him. I think his design is great, his sound effects are cool, his attacks are dangerous, and he's another example of a unique monster within the series. Oroshi Kirin is kind of better, I suppose. I really like his colours, and the ice attacks are just as dangerous, but not as intrusive as the thunder ones. I'm surprised he never returned for Iceborne, considering, you know, but upon refighting him, I feel like the developers probably decided that he was too similar to Velkhana. Which Kirin is your favourite? If you dislike him, how would you improve him? And if you do like him, tell me why in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and have a good day.